Hi. The normative approach to economics continued into the Christian era as medical philosophers such as Thomas Aquinas attempted to define the ethics of private property and trading in the marketplace. He considered the morality of prices, arguing for the importance of just prices, where no excessive profit was made by the merchant. The ancients lived in the societies where labor was composed largely of slaves, and medieval Europe ran on a feudal system where peasants were protected by local lords in exchange for labor or military service. So the moral arguments of these philosophers were somewhat academic. There was a change in the society. City-states came into existence, that followed by the collapse of feudal economy. A new prosperous class of merchants replaced the feudal landowners as the important players in the economy, and they worked hand in hand with dynasties of bankers who financed their banking and voyages of discovery. The new trading nations replaced small-scale feudal economies, and economic thinking began to focus on how best to control the exchange of goods and money from one country to another. So the dominating approach of the time, known as mercantilism, this was concerned with the balance of payments, the difference between what a country spends on imports and what it earns from exports. So selling goods abroad was seen as good because it brought money into the country. Importing goods was seen as damaging because money flowed out. To prevent a trade deficit and protect domestic producers against foreign competition, mercantilists advocated the taxing of imports. The trade increased. It moved beyond the hands of individual merchants and their backers. Partnerships and companies were set up, often with government backing. The British East India Company, an international trading company, was formed. That was the world's first global brand, which was established during this period. Thomas Mun advocates a mercantilist policy using foreign exports as a way of increasing a nation's wealth. So here we can see how history or how politics influences economics. So there was colonization, finding new lands and bringing the new land under their control for trade purpose. So this is what we see in the history. So the firms began to be split into shares so they could be financed by many investors. Interest in buying shares grew rapidly in the late 17th century, leading to the establishment of many joint stock companies and stock exchanges where the shares could be bought and sold. So the huge increase in trading prompted a renewed interest in the working of the economy and led to the beginnings of the discipline of economics. Emerging at the beginning of 18th century, the so-called Age of Enlightenment, which prized rationality above all, took a scientific approach to political economy. Economists attempted to measure economic activity and described the working of the system rather than looking only at moral implications. In France, a group of thinkers known as physiocrats analyzed the flow of money around the economy and effectively produced the first macroeconomic model. 18th century French thinkers who were known as physiocrats, they were thinkers and writers. They developed the idea of economy as in France, a group of thinkers known as the physiocrats analyzed the flow of money around the economy and effectively produced the first macroeconomics model. 18th century French thinkers and writers developed the idea of economy as circular flow of income and output. They were known as physiocrats. They considered agriculture as the basis of wealth and advocated laissez-faire, minimal government intervention in economy. They placed agriculture rather than trade or finance at the heart of the economy. What is mercantilism? Government's regulation of international trade to generate wealth and strengthen national power. Mercantilism advocates trade policies that protect domestic industries. Meanwhile, political philosophers in Britain shifted the emphasis away from mercantilist ideas of trade and towards producers, consumers, and the value of utility goods. The framework for the modern study of economics was beginning to emerge. Industrial Revolution created change in the economic policy of the governments. So here we can see how history, politics and economics are interlinked. Exploring new lands, finding resources outside and bringing them under their control for the accumulation of wealth for their own country. So they change the economic policies too.